So the last major transitional figure that we'll be discussing is Parmenides. Right? Um, Parmenides is, well, he represents another pivotal point in philosophy's history because his system is the first one that's a diametrical opposite of an existing system. Right? One that's the first case we see of one philosopher responding to another by presenting critique, essentially, an antithetical a system of thought. Right? Um, Something I forgot to mention about Heraclitus, real quick, is he's also known as the dork because he was the first philosopher to like criticize other philosophers. Right? Like from the fragments we have, we see him like call them names pretty much and call them idiots. The Milesians and other philosophers, he calls them idiots for believing what they do, more or less. So he started this grand tradition, Heraclitus did, of philosophers being petty assholes to each other, right? And we see sort of its evolution, the next step of that, the evolution of that, with Parmenides, right? Where they're not just being a petty asshole, being a petty asshole who's going at loggerheads with you because he didn't like your theory and he wanted to come up with one that was completely, radically different and opposed to it. So where Heraclitus's theory is a theory of eternal and constant change, Parmenides' theory is one of absolute singularity. Right? There is no change. There's no multiplicity of anything. In fact, he calls his metaphysics the one. Right? So he also changes the question a little bit, right? Where everyone to this point has asked, what is the nature of everything, right? Or what is everything made of? Parmenides asks, what must the world be like? What must reality be like? And he says it has to abide by the rule of non-contradiction. Now, the rule of non-contradiction was one of the three laws of logic in ancient Greece, up until Aristotle formalized logic more concisely. And even still, for Aristotle's syllogistic logic, it still boils down mostly to those three laws. Right? Um, it was an important one that said that something cannot be what it cannot be what it is and something else, right? So A cannot equal not A, right? Which means that if A equals B, B just is A, right? It shares all of its characteristics, all of its features. There's nothing that distinguishes the two from each other. So otherwise, you can get into contradictions, like A equals A when the second A has some element that the first one doesn't, right? So the apparent world, which is unreal, and the one, which is reality, again, very much like Pythagoras here, right? The distinction between what's apparently true and what is true, right? The intelligible or the sensible and the intelligible. Right? Reality must align with this rule of non-contradiction. So three things. It must align with the rule of non-contradiction. There can be no change as a result of this, because if we say that there can be change, then what we're saying is that A can at one time be one thing, but over time become something else. Right? But if A is A, then it can never be anything other than what A is. Right? An egg is just an egg. It always just is an egg. Right? Doesn't matter if it hatches into a chicken. The egg is an egg, is an egg, is an egg, is an egg. Right? The apparent change is an illusion, he says. Right? All of change just an illusion. And furthermore, something cannot come from nothing, right? Which means that, you know, there can be no creation myth for the world, right? The world can't have sprung up from nothing. There can't have been something that created it, according to Parmenides. And what this means for the world is that the world, to abide by all these three things, must be eternal. So it cannot change, right? Everything is always the same forever. Um, and it's imperishable. It's never going to die. It's uncreated. It never was created. It just always has been. It's homogeneous, meaning it's all of one substance, right? We might think, according to Parmenides, that we're different beings that with, like made of different things, that my computer is made of something different from my water bottle, which is made of something different from me, but we're all homogeneous, right? It's all one substance, and more to the point, it's it's continuous, right? It doesn't admit of a division of parts. It's one thing. It is the one, right? And this is a form of, so his answer is a form of what's known as rationalist or armchair philosophy. The idea being you can sit down and think your way to truths, right, through deductive reasoning. You can think your way to the logical truths of the way the world must be, right, to metaphysical truths just by sitting and thinking. Right? So this is in complete opposition to Heraclitus, you'll notice. Heraclitus, constant change, everything's in flux, there is no substance. Parmenides, no change, nothing can ever be in flux. There is literally only one thing, the one. That's it. This means even that the illusion of you and me as separate beings is just that. It's an illusion. Everything is one. And again, we see some undertones of perhaps Hindu thought here, right? Uh, Something we'll build out later on, right, in week 3 or module 3.